Hi everybody, in this video lecture we are going to discuss about friend classes. This is related to the concept of data hiding of object-oriented programming. What is meant by data hiding is some of the data members are made to be accessed only within the class. That is, every one of us have our own private information which is not known outside world, isn't it? I have a family, I have so many children, I have other responsibilities which is not known to everyone, right? Like that, in the class also, when we decide, we may hide some of the data from outside. That is, it can be accessible only within the classes, right? That is what is data hiding is. And sometimes we want to access those things. For example, my friend knows about my family, about my other things also, in addition to my academic profile, right? So because she is my friend, like that we are going to have friends in C++. There are two friends, one is friend function, another one is friend classes. In the previous class we discussed about friend functions, right? So friend functions are non-member functions or global functions which is given the rights to access the private members. And what are friend classes are? They are other classes which has been given the access rights to know the private data members of a particular class. For example, in our case study of railway reservation system, consider this scenario. In Indian railway system, we know that there are two types of tracks. One is meter gauge, another one is broad gauge. Okay. Suppose if a train is going to run in meter gauge, then a coach of type meter gauge can only be attached to that. Similarly, if a train is going to run in a broad gauge, then coach of type broad gauge only can be attached to that particular train, right? So now we have two classes in our design. One is coach class, right, which is having details like coach number, coach class, and then AC or not, and then we have capacity, and then gauge. Gauge is going to be either M or B. M to denote meter gauge and B to denote broad gauge. And then we have constructors. This is the default constructor. This is the parameterized constructor. Okay, and then we have functions like get to get the details about the coach, and put to print the details about the coach. And we have function is full to check whether the coach is full or not. Similarly, we have functions like increment seat and decrement seat, right? Next, we have the class designed for train. Train has a train number, and then it has a route, and then coach, the coaches. There are many coaches in a train. So we have an array to represent the coaches, and then a train has a train name, and then number of coaches is there. And here also we have the gauge. This is going to represent on what gauge this train is going to run. Then we have a constructor for train, and then function, compute number of coach function, and then add coach function, remove coach function, and route update. And this add coach function is very, very important. This is only going to attach a coach to a train. In this function, we are going to check if the type of the gauge of the train and type of the gauge of the coach are same. If it is same, then only we are going to add the coach to the train, otherwise we are not going to add, right? Now this train class has to access the private data member gauge of the coach class, right? So what we can do is we can make this train class to be friend of this coach class. That is the idea. Train class will become friend of the coach class, so that it can access all the data members. But it is not the other way. That is, coach class cannot access the private data members of the train class, right? So friend class is nothing but to make one class to access data members of the other class we declare as friend. When you see the declaration, for example, here we have two classes. One is employee class, another one is employee class, right? Now employer can access some of the details, like in employee class generally we will have name of the employee, employee ID, and then pay details like basic pay, HRA, DA, and so on. Similarly, we will have like other informations like in which department the employee is working and so on. And the employer will have the rights to view all the details about the employee. So we are going to make this employer class to be friend of the employee class. Okay. So this is how we will make it. That is friend class employer. This is the syntax for saying that employer is friend to this particular class. We will include this line inside the class employee, so that we are saying that this employer class becomes friend to this class. But the compiler will not know what is meant by employer at this point of time, because we are declaring the class employer only below, isn't it? So we have to do something called as forward declaration. What is meant by forward declaration is we are just informing the compiler that a class named as employer is coming. That's what. Okay, so we are just saying here class employer, so the compiler will not give me any compilation error, right? And these are the properties of friend classes. Friendship is not symmetric. Suppose if I say that class Y is friend of class X, then it doesn't mean that class X is friend of class Y. Similarly, friendship is not transitive. That is, if class X is friend of class Y and class Y is friend of class Z, then we cannot conclude that X is friend of class Z. Both the properties are not suitable for friendship relationship in OOP, right? So now we will see one sample program. That is, there are two classes. One is class square, another one is class rectangle. We know that class square, that is square is also a rectangle, isn't it? That is rectangle of same dimension. So we are going to morph, basically we are going to change one shape to another. Okay, so see here, this is class rectangle with two data members. One is width, another one is height, and then we have a constructor in which we are going to just this is with default arguments, right? Here also this function, or this is the constructor, this can be invoked with 0 argument or 1 argument or 2 arguments, right? So what we are going to say is whatever value for W is passed, that will be assigned to width. Whatever value that is assigned for H will be assigned to height. And then we have a function display, and then also we have a function called as morph. Okay, in this rectangle class we have two data members, width and height, and then a constructor, and then a display function, and then we have a function for morphing, right? Then this is the square class. In the square class, we know that square means both the sides are equal, isn't it? So we are having only one data member side, and then we have a constructor, right, for assigning the value for the data member, and then we have a display function. Here we say that rectangle class is friend of this class. Okay, rectangle class, we are making rectangle class to be friend of the class square, so we say friend class rectangle, right? So we can see that what happens is when we write the morph function of the rectangle class, we see that width is equal to s dot size. As we have seen, they are not within the class, so we have to explicitly pass the object. That is, in the case of friend function also, we have to pass the object of the class. Similarly, when we are going to have a friend class, if a data member has to access the object, if it has to access the member, then the object must be explicitly passed. Okay, so we can see that morph is the function within the rectangle, right? So for that, square must be explicitly passed, right? In this morph function, we assign the value of the side to both width and the height. That is, the point here is square is a rectangle with same length and breadth. Length and breadth equal means we call that a square. It is a special type of rectangle. That's all, right? So you can see that in the main, what we are doing is we are creating an object for the rectangle class. Since we are passing two parameters, the parameterized constructor will be called, and default values will not be taken. Instead 5 and 10 will be taken, right? And then what we are doing is we are creating an object for the square also, right? And then we are displaying the details of the rectangles, and after that what we are doing is we are calling the morph function. So morph function, what it will do is it will just assign the same value for length, that is width and height, isn't it? So if we display before calling the morph function, you will see that rectangle dimensions are 5 and 10, whereas if you call it after the morph function, you will see that the value becomes 5 and 5. Okay, so here in this example, what we do is we just in the display function, we are just calculating the area, right, side into side. Similarly, here in this display also, what we are doing is width into height. It is not a mere display, but it is calculating product of the width and the height and then displaying. So what will happen here is, before calling, you will see that the rectangle's dimension are 10 and 5, so the area is 50, whereas square area is 25. After calling the mop function, you can see that the area and area of both the rectangle and square becomes 25, right? Next example is, we are having this is a very simple class, numbers, where we have two numbers a and b, right? We have a read function which is going to just read the value for the two numbers, and then we have a friend class called as arithmetic operations. Now we are going to add the numbers, and then we are going to subtract the numbers, find product of the numbers and divide the numbers, right, in this class. So we have to access the private data members. Actually, what we are going to do is, in add we are going to find what is a plus b, in sub we are going to find out what is a minus b, in multiplication a star b, and in division a slash b. But a and b are within the numbers, isn't it? So they are private data members. To access the private data members, first of all we have to make this class to be a friend of this. So what we are doing here is, we are including this line, friend class arithmetic operations, right? And C is the data member in arithmetic operation, which is going to store the result of the operation, right? So we have here add function. Please note that we are passing the object of the class. We have to pass it because it is a non-member, that is, it is not the member function within the class itself. So we have to pass it, and then we are accessing it. Now we can see that C equal to num dot a plus num dot b, right? Subtract equal to num dot a minus num dot b, and then you can say C equal to num dot a into num dot b, and division is num dot a by num dot b. And here we create object for both the classes, and then you are reading the values for the numbers a and b, and then call the functions one by one through the object, right? We are passing the object of the first class for everything, right? So you can see the result. The code is also passed to your mail ID, so you can take and download and work on this. Now we will discuss the implementation for our case study. In our case study, we have two classes. One is coach class, another one is train class, and we have to make the classes to be friends, isn't it? Which must be made friend is now this is the implementation actually, okay? That is, the train class must be made as friend of the coach class. This is the implementation. You can just see that first of all we are saying there is a class train. This is forward declaration to avoid compilation error, and then we are defining the coach class, declaring the coach class, that is, what is the coach number. Here we will give values like S1, B1, A1 and so on. And then coach class, we have different classes of coach, isn't it? First class, second class, third class. So we will give some value for the coach class. And then AC, and I have declared it as bool because it's going to be either true or false. If it is a AC coach, we will give as true, otherwise we will give as false. And then capacity of the coach, right? And then a character to represent the gauge of the coach, right? And then here we are making the class train to be friend. You can see this line, and then we have functions to get the details and then print the details. This is what the coach class contains. And then we have implemented, we have defined the functions get and print. Now see the class train. In the class train we have train number, and then route of the train, and then coaches. I assume that there will be maximum only 12 coaches, so I am declaring it as 12. And then you can see that I have declared one static data member, that is number of coach, right? Because a train, a number of coaches we have to keep track of, so we are having one data member number of coach. And then gauge, what type of train track it is going to run on. Then we have functions here, get, print, and then add coach, remove coach, right? Initialize the static data member to 0. Okay, static data members can only be initialized outside the class, and this is the syntax: type of the data member, and then name of the class, scope resolution operator, and then name of the data member, and then equal to some value what we are going to initialize, right? And get details, this is what the function is. And then add coach, this function we are going to find out what is the type of gauge, isn't it? So we are going to say here we are getting the details of the coach, right? And then you check if gauge of the train, this gauge, if I simply say gauge, then it refers to the gauge of the class inside which this member function is declared, right? This add coach is inside train. So when I simply say gauge, it refers to gauge of the train. Now I am checking whether that is equal to gauge of the coach that is being added. Okay, if they are same, then you say number of coaches plus plus, you put the details and you say number of coaches plus plus. Otherwise you say cannot add coach if they are of different gauge. That is, a meter gauge coach cannot be attached to a broad gauge train. Similarly, a broad gauge coach cannot be added to a meter gauge train, right? So, and then remove coaches, simply number of coaches minus minus. To print the details, we have a function, and this is the main, where we create an object for the train and then get the details of the train, add coach, right? I am trying to add 2 coaches and then I am trying to print. Okay, this is about friend classes, right? You can practice the programs whatever is sent to your mail ID and check, clarify your doubts. Okay, thank you.